Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited to dive into another explainer with you all today. We are going on a bit of an interactive mission. We're breaking down a really fascinating chapter that asks a massive question. What does it actually take to transform a regular, everyday school into a place that's genuinely happy, completely safe, and totally green? And we're not just passively reading about it. We're going to learn how to actively audit the spaces around us.
Okay, let's dive right in. Here's our Explorer's Roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with the Green School Vision. Meet the school explorers, look into saving our resources and staying safe every day. And finally, we'll bring it all together to talk about creating a happy place.
Section 1. The Green School Vision, or Asha and Mohit's Dream.
To really get to the heart of this chapter, we need to ground ourselves in the perspective of two students we meet right at the start, Asha and Mohit. You know, for kids like Mohit, school is way more than just a brick-and-mortar building where you sit at a desk all day. It's this vibrant, living hub. It's the place to run around, see your friends, play games, and of course, learn.
The text captures this exact feeling perfectly. Mohit actually says, "I love school. It is where I see my friends, play games, and learn new things every day. It is my happy place." That right there, that's the emotional core of this whole thing. But then, his friend Asha throws out a really interesting challenge. She's asking, how do we take this happy place and level it up? She wants to turn it into a green school, basically a place that actively manages its waste, saves water, and truly respects nature.
Moving on to Section 2, Meet the School Explorers, forming your mission teams. So, this is where that awesome idea turns into actual action. Because how do you practically build a green school? Well, the text suggests forming specific mission teams. And honestly, I absolutely love these names. They sound like little elementary school superheroes. We've got the Water Watchers, the Electricity Savers, Waste Warriors, Green Guardians, and the Traffic Trackers. By breaking the student body into these specific squads, everybody gets a super focused mission to go out, evaluate, and actually improve their surroundings.
Now, what's really interesting about this approach is the methodology. The Water Watchers, for instance, they aren't just wandering around aimlessly hoping to spot a puddle. They're armed with specific, rapid-fire questions to audit the environment. They're asking, are there any leaking taps, or is water being wasted? It's a question-based approach that literally forces you to stop and actively observe the things you'd normally just walk right past.
Which brings us to Section 3, Saving Our Resources, Being Cool, Clean, and Conscious. All right, let's shift our focus to the physical environment and those specific resources the teams are monitoring. Take the Waste Warriors. The text draws a super clear line between dry waste and wet waste. Dry waste, think old newspapers or plastics, that gets collected and handed over to traditional recyclers. Contrast that with wet waste, which is stuff like food peels and leftovers. Those absolutely have to be kept in separate bins. Why? Because separating them right at the source is what prevents those foul odors, keeps the pests away, and is basically step one in keeping the school sanitary and clean.
And this next bit brilliantly illustrates another core concept from the chapter, temperature management. You know how sometimes you walk into a room and it's absolutely sweltering, while another room is perfectly comfortable? Well, the text explains that the color of the building directly impacts the temperature inside. A white roof reflects the sun's heat, which keeps the room cool below. On the flip side, a black surface absorbs all that heat, making everything way, way warmer.
To prove this, the book lays out this brilliantly simple experiment. You just take 2 glasses of water, record their starting temperatures, and put one under the shade of a tree and the other directly out in the blazing sun. Then, an hour later, you measure them again. It's just such an undeniable, hands-on way to prove how absolutely vital shade and strategic tree planting are for keeping a green school cool. Now, let's talk about another precious resource, water. The text makes a point to remind us that water is literally a treasure. When students are lined up at the cooler filling their bottles, that's when those water watchers need to be on high alert. Because as the text points out, even a tiny, slow-dripping leak can waste a massive amount of water over time. Truly, every single drop counts.
Section 4, Staying Safe Every Day, Traffic and Fire Protocols.
Here's the thing. A school can have all the trees and recycling bins in the universe, but if it isn't physically safe, it just cannot be a happy green school. Safety is the foundation of the whole shebang. So this is where our traffic trackers step up. Their audit actually takes them outside the school gates to look for physical dangers in the surrounding streets. They're checking how chaotic the arrival and exit gates are, verifying if there's an actual safe pedestrian crossing, and keeping an eye on how fast vehicles are speeding by. Making sure students arrive in one piece is literally step 1 of a successful day.
Once we're inside the school, the text shifts to emergency procedures, specifically fire safety. So the crucial point here is that in an emergency, structure is what saves lives. The text lays out a very specific 6-step evacuation protocol. You raise the alarm, leave your belongings behind, walk without running, which, let's be honest, is probably the hardest rule for kids to follow. Don't panic or push, head straight to the assembly point and alert the staff if anyone is missing. By following those exact steps, you prevent panic and everyone gets out safe and sound.
And that brings us to Section 5, creating a happy place, the social environment.
We've talked a lot about the physical building, saving resources, and those vital safety protocols. But now, we need to connect all that infrastructure to the emotional climate of the school. The text gives us this really beautiful definition to work with. It says a happy place isn't just about having fun all the time. It's actually an environment where absolutely everyone experiences safety, care, and respect. And how do we build that? Through the little everyday things. Waiting our turn, using kind words, and keeping our shared spaces clean. It's this perfect marriage of physical safety and emotional respect.
On the flip side, the source material also asks us to look at the everyday behaviors that can instantly ruin that vibe. We're talking about things like pushing or skipping lines at the water tap, scribbling on the desks, tossing wrappers on the playground, teasing people, or just being overly loud and disruptive. Any one of those actions might seem kind of small on its own, but together, they can make what should be a welcoming place feel really uncomfortable and just unpleasant for everybody else.
And this brings us to the ultimate core message of the entire chapter. The text says, the way we behave shows the kind of person we are. Respect and kindness are not just words. I mean, wow, it's an incredibly powerful reminder that our daily physical actions are what actually build up or tear down a supportive community. We can't just talk about kindness. We have to literally show it through how we behave.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, deeply provocative question directly from the text. Which actions would you extend to your home, neighborhood, and communities to make it a happy place for all? Because being a school explorer, that shouldn't just stop at the school gates. I challenge you to take that observant, respectful, action-oriented mindset out into the real world today. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.